He is the Paul R. Lawrence MBA class of 1942, professor of business administration at the Harvard Business School.
Business is a positive force for good in the world.
He's an expert on leadership, strategy, and organizational issues in driving growth.
How they define their strategy, how they go to market, how they hire people, how they grow their business.
NewsX proudly presents the VaKu Diaspora Dialogue with Ranjay Gulati. Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX VaKu. Joining me on the broadcast is a very special guest, Professor Ranjay Gulati. He holds a PhD from Harvard University. He has a master's in management from MIT's Sloan School of Management. And at this point of time, he lives in Newton in Massachusetts. He is a prolific author, a researcher, he's a consultant, and a professor. It's good to have you, Professor Ranjay, on the broadcast with us.
Thank you, Megha. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
It's been a long journey that you have built right from traveling in New Delhi. You were studying in St. Stephen's, decided to shift base to America. Your big American dream, how did you manage to achieve it?
So I have to confess to you, I never had the American dream that I was, waiting to leave. I think some of my own journey has been kind of serendipitous, stumbling. It was zigzag more than linear path to where I ended up doing what I did. But the big decision is when you leave your homeland. You're being transplanted, and when you are doing that, you encounter a number of surprises, twists and turns in your journey. So I would say to you that my journey has been anything but linear, but much more of a zigzag journey.
Absolutely. And you fit into a lot of molds. You're not just a lecturer and somebody who studied from the topmost universities and colleges in America and in New Delhi. You have gone about and built your entire plethora of this career, and it's taken you into a diversified field of bringing about consultancy to some of the Fortune 500 companies in America, outside of America. When you talk about being an author, you are somebody who has already written 5 books, and the 6th one is on the anvil. Talk to us about your book. Does the passion of writing commence from the time you were a little child, or does it also help in putting forth your views and also helping you grow in the profession that you are?
Yeah. So I wish I could tell you that I was this writer from the age of 5 and I was researching big projects when I was 10, but none of that is true. I was an avid cricketer. I was a jock kid growing up and going to modern school in New Delhi. But I was curious. I had a certain curiosity. I don't know where I had that from. I was always curious to learn more. And I was very fortunate to have had a number of educators along the way who had a huge impact on me, who were really role models to me both in my high school at Modern School, Barakhamba Road, but also at St. Stephen's College. And they were deeply inspiring. They piqued my curiosity. And the one thing they animated me, and I had amazingly great professors at MIT and at Harvard Business School. And the one thing that I learned from each of them was find an important problem that the world needs to solve. And as an educator, researcher, if you have something to say about it, then you have made a difference. Mm-hmm. It was really around that idea. And I think that I heard repeatedly from them saying, find an important problem. What are some important problems that people around us don't understand? So if you look around us today, we have a lot of really big problems the world is facing. And I came at it from the lens of business. So I wasn't trying to solve the economy. I wasn't trying to solve scientific problems. I was looking at the role of business in society. Mm-hmm. And in that context, to me, there was some kind of ideology that I had to overcome, which is business is a positive force for good in the world. Business is hugely important. It not only provides us jobs and livelihood, it gives us identity, it gives us meaning, it gives us products, it makes our life hopefully better. Now, not all of business is good. And so we have to manage that and temper that a little bit. But the idea was business is a platform for good in the world. And then my idea was, what are some of the most important problems this tremendously important part of our lives can perhaps need to solve? And that was the journey for me to, and so when you ask how am I doing different things, so, and these are synergistic things. So at Harvard Business School, we always say they're synergistic. You find an important problem, you study it, you teach it, you learn from your students also. So there's a lot of two-way flow. You go and interview business professionals, leaders, you learn from them, because in many instances some of them are way further along. So all these things kind of feed, and then you try to crystallize and tell their story. So there's a lot of synergy across all these very disparate things that you're describing.
Right, absolutely. And your new book is on the anvil. If you could share some insight into what is it all about. Obviously, it's about team building and management lessons in business. But what is it that the audience's interest would pique into the book?
Yeah. So, I don't need to say this to all of you, but businesses, we all feel that the world of business is at a crossroads today. There are so many problems. Trust in business is declined dramatically. Backlash building around what has business done about the environment, about inequality, and a whole range of other pressing issues. And that business has maybe overcorrected towards saying we only exist to serve our shareholders. And that was never the original intent. Businesses do exist to serve shareholders. Shareholders need to be compensated for their taking risk and investing their capital. But it also exists in society, right? Society gives them a license to operate. There are employees who choose to work there, right? There are customers who choose to buy from them. So you are part of a larger ecosystem. And so a lot of talk has been around this idea that maybe businesses need to be much more clear about their purpose. And maybe if they articulate their purpose and use that as kind of a North Star, they'll understand how to navigate this growing complexity of a multi-stakeholder world. And so my big learning is that purpose and profit can go together, that it's not a tax on business. This is not doing CSR. This is not just saying, come on now, do 2%, 5% for CSR, and that's your little checkbox. This is saying, how do I actually build a genuinely purpose-driven business? One of the companies I looked at was actually in India. And so I've looked in a range of contexts at companies that are trying to say, how do we do this? And I should tell you, by the way, investors are paying attention. Pension funds, sovereign wealth funds that invest in these companies, public companies and private companies, are now asking larger questions about ESG. You may call it impact investing, but they are putting pressure. And Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, has publicly come out and said businesses need to think about purpose. It gives them a longer term horizon. So the book is really exploring who are these companies, small and large, that have made purpose the basis for how they define their strategy, how they go to market, how they hire people, how they grow their business, how they make it part of their culture.
Absolutely. On that note, thank you, Professor Ranjay Gulati, for joining me on the broadcast and sharing your thoughts and analysis of how the Indian American community has built for itself such a legacy, and you being integral to this entire set of environments, set of these objectives that have already been achieved. And we have obviously long miles to go before we are able to further establish and fortify our position in the diaspora community in foreign lands. But thank you so much once again for joining me.
Thank you, Megha. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you all the very best.
He is the CEO and founder of SAIML Pte Limited.
Provide capital to a bunch of Asian companies to be able to access global markets.
He is the sponsor for Strauss Special Purpose Acquisition Company.
Agriculture technology, we feel that space is very, very interesting as there's a revolution happening there.
NewsX proudly presents the VaKu Diaspora Dialogue with Bala Swaminathan. Hello and welcome to NewsX VaKu. Joining me on the broadcast is a very special and accomplished guest, Bala Swaminathan. He's a former president for Westpac International and a founder of SAIML. He's based out of Singapore currently, and he's an investor in early stage companies. He's a Harvard pass out and a chartered accountant. He is also a sponsor and board member at Straw Acquisition Company, which is a special purpose acquisition company and will be very soon listed on NASDAQ in September. He has been in his previous roles while he was in India, heading the corporate banks in Standard Chartered and ICICI. He was also part of the founding team of KPMG India. It's good to have you, Bala. You've gone ahead and achieved so many accomplishments, so many successes. If you could talk to us and narrate to us your journey from India, from Mumbai to currently in Singapore.
Thank you, Megha. It's an honor and privilege to be with you. And I wish you and the network all its success in what you're trying to build, which I think is a phenomenal objective. As regards my journey, it's been 25 odd years. And my whole journey has been predicated on trying to connect the dots between whether it's between geographies or between issuers and investors, and being able to be that catalyst which brings the two together. So whether it was KPMG in early 90s, where we worked on providing or giving confidence to investors in a post-Harshad Mehta world, that the financial statements that Indian companies were producing were strong, or even later, when I helped companies like ICICI Limited those days, ICICI Bank, Wipro, Infosys list in New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, and giving those investors confidence that these institutions were investment worthy. In ICICI, in Standard Chartered, much later on as head of corporate bank, to be able to bring the corporate bank together with the people who were taking loans from it, being able to provide trade finance, FX. The whole objective, Megha, of my journey so far has been to be that catalyst of connecting people. I've taken the journey forward with Straw Acquisition Corporation, where we will list a SPAC, in the third, fourth quarter of this year in NASDAQ. And that objective is also to provide capital to a bunch of Asian companies to be able to access global markets. My role as an early stage investor is exactly the same. I invest, coach, mentor several companies in Singapore, in India, in US. And the objective, again, is just not to provide capital that they need, but also help them with networks, help them with product development, and give them access to the markets that they want to be in. So my journey has always been one of a catalyst in connecting people across these markets.
Congratulations, Bala, and wishing you all the very best for that NASDAQ listing of your company, Straw Acquisition Company. This is also going to, like you said, open doors for the Western markets to enter into the Southeast Asian, especially when it comes to the Indian markets, Indian capital hungry companies that are going to get such huge opportunities. If you could shed some more light into the kind of companies that you are going ahead and looking to invest in, the kind of investors at this point of time that are interested in this entire venture.
So SPACs have been a very successful phenomena in the last 2.5 years. Just in the first 3 months of this year, between January and March, over $90 billion got raised in the US markets as capital to help capital coming into companies. You probably heard of Grab, which is equivalent to Uber out of Southeast Asia, which announced a SPAC at a $40 billion valuation about a month and a half ago. So the whole idea is to find capital which is more freely available in global markets, and giving them access to the growth markets of Asia. It's a very funny world we live in. There is lots of liquidity and capital in Europe and America. In fact, about $20 trillion, as you probably know, is today in negative interest rate territory. And that capital wants a home where it can find growth opportunities, where it can get high single-digit, double-digit type returns. Asia, we feel, has a very strong addressable market with half of the world living in Asia. And indeed, even in markets like India, Indonesia, Vietnam, there's a very significant population where the demographics work well, and upwardly mobile population, consumption demands are changing. And if you look at the startup generation, as we call it, in the last few months, I mean, just take India, for example. India's produced more unicorns in the last 6 months than it has in the last 20 years. So clearly the opportunity for capital in America, Europe to find its way to Asia is very strong. And we believe we will bring that. The sectors we've called out, Megha, given our own experience as sponsors, is fintech. That's my personal background. Agriculture technology. We feel that space is very, very interesting, as there's a revolution happening there. Companies are getting much better with production, supply chain, drone technologies coming in. There is a huge amount of revolution happening in agriculture. In Singapore, we now have vertical farms, hydroponics, where lettuce, kale is grown vertically, not in the flat sort of farms that we used to see. EduTech, very, very interesting space. You've seen in India, companies, becoming $10-15 billion companies in that space in the last few years. And health tech. I think the way health tech, not just medicine, not research and development around medicine, but the analytics, discovery. I think all of that is rapidly changing. Our sponsor group, we have 4 sponsors. We have deep understanding across these 4 sectors. So we've called out these 4 sectors as the sectors with which we will go to market with. So the idea is to find that capital coming into these 4 sectors.
Absolutely. I think you are a big asset to Singapore as a country. And there are several of our Indians who are going ahead and creating big entities of themselves and bringing in the wealth evaluation, wealth acquisition when it comes to the country. But thank you so much, Bala, for joining me on this special broadcast and sharing your insight as to being a citizen of Singapore and how things have turned around for you and how you are turning around the situation when it comes to the economics and the wealth creation for the country.
Thank you very much, Megha. It's been a pleasure interacting with you.
She is an educator, speaker, author, a businesswoman, and an academic life coach.
As an educator came a lot of experiences.
She coaches academically stressed teens and college students.
I started studying the brain of a teenager, started doing a lot of research on how these kids, preteens, start thinking.
NewsX proudly presents the VaKu Diaspora Dialogue with Manu Shahi. Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX VaKu. My name is Megha, and joining me on the broadcast is Manu Nanda Shahi. She is an educational leader. She's a coach, business owner, as well as an author from Texas, US. It's good to have you, Manu, on the show.
Thank you, Megha. It's my pleasure.
Manu, you wear several hats. You're an educational leader. You're a coach. You have a business of your own that you have been running for decades together now. You are also an author. How did your journey commence, and how's it going at this point?
Oh, wow, Megha, you want me to have the 27 years of journey condensed into 12 minutes? That's going to be amazing. But I think it's one chapter at a time, and one day at a time is the mantra, which you learn not when you are young, but you do learn over a period of time. That's how it's supposed to be. So I came into this country. I'm from, Chandigarh. I had to say that, from Chandigarh, and got married, came to US. And I think I was sitting in a group of these, couples where everybody is either an IT person or is a physician, or, those are the 2 typical career paths that everybody comes to US with, majority, and then rest is self-made. So I started my journey actually as a teller in a bank, and I went to school again over here. And from there, I worked for got my degree, got into investing, worked as a stockbroker on New York Stock Exchange. From there, I decided life took a little turn for me on the medical path with the family relation. I had to go ahead and leave my job.
Okay.
And then I decided to go ahead and start my own business. And so I've been in an after-school industry business for last 15 years now. And along to that journey of as an educator came a lot of experiences of why the families are behaving the way they are, which just made me become an academic coach for students. My heart is totally with middle school, preteen, teenagers. I think that's if you can shape them, they can become amazing adults, and they feel they need a connection. So my journey has been from there to a TEDx talk to being a coach, but core my day-to-day is being after school business industry, where we help kids learn skills on how to study so that their grades go up.
That's a very interesting profile. You go ahead and say that you mold the lives, the behavioral patterns of students to achieve the best that they can in their school and then high school and the university levels, etc., etc. What was the motivation behind going into this direction of educational entrepreneurship?
So I always wanted to do something with kids. So I had either education or art. So my daughter took the art journey. She's an artist. And so I decided to take the education journey. And initially it was a franchise that I owned. I bought a franchise and ran it for 10 years. And I started seeing the struggles that the parents, especially the working parents, the franchise I owned was probably majority of my clientage was, I would say 50% was South Asians. And I could see the struggles in the family. The mindset had to be changed of grades are not the only thing. There is more that is happening. The parent is just seeing a bad grade, but then if as an educator, we see so many other reasons behind the bad grade, but that connection was missing because it was kind of hard to convey that to the parents. But as soon as the kids hit the, preteen years, they would disconnect completely with the parents. And I'm a why person. I need to go ahead and do the research. So I started studying the brain of a teenager, started doing a lot of research on how these kids, preteens start thinking. And I wish a lot of parents do that to understand the why behind a child's behavior. And then I decided to sell my business and start something own, completely. Mm-hmm. And that connection that you can get with that student and figure out the reason behind their behavior and improve the behavior, improve the study habits and things, and improve their confidence and improve the grades is a better outlook towards the academics versus just focus completely. And, being South Asian, the parenting is very different versus when we are in US and see the parenting for non-South Asian families.
Absolutely. I think you've taken on this very difficult task, keeping in mind teens, preteens. It's difficult because that's the age where they become disruptive. There are hormones that are at play. There are a lot of distractions all around. And obviously, when it comes to South Asians or when it comes to any particular community living in foreign land, there is a lot of confusion that appears because you're holding on to the family values. And then there's a completely different environment that you have to adapt yourself to. There's peer pressure. I mean, we have all gone through our teens and we understand the challenges of it. So kudos to you. And might I ask, the decision to move from India to United States, how did that happen? Was it just happenstance? Or was there some more thought involved in actually going ahead and forging your entire personal and professional journey?
No thought was given. It was destiny. Coming from a Punjabi family in 94, as soon as you are in that section, that age bracket, our parents are started to think about, let's get her married and all that stuff. So it was destiny, definitely. My husband is also from Chandigarh, and that's just brought me here, and nothing was planned. I was one day sitting and thinking, wow. So I'm here in a land where I know no one. It's an arranged marriage, so I don't even know my husband that well. I don't even know myself that well. And I have to start, hit the reset button in life. And that is one thing that I'm glad I did. I have no regrets being in US versus, either way, India or US, the journey would have been what I made out of it, either here or there.
Thank you, Manu. And I totally agree with the kind of views that you hold with regards to the youth, not just in America, but in India as well. We are the future at the end of the day. And going ahead, and to be honest, there is quite the transformation that has been witnessed in terms of gender parity when it comes to peers that are looked upon. If you're a woman, then also there is equality. And that's the stress that has been levied at workplaces, at schools. And it can only be emphasized even further for that equity to hold place when it comes to the position of women professionally as well as.
But Megha, I will add one more thing is we are giving that all that power to the girls to improve and, go out there. And if people who are listening to this and they have a boy and a girl, parents, our generation especially needs to remember that they're going to get married to a girl who's just like your daughter, who's free-minded and free-spirited. So they need to go ahead and change the mindset of the boys too, which is some of them have already, it's way better than what it was before, but a lot needs to be done that you cannot have expectations that my sister can do all that stuff, but my wife still needs to be, take care of the stuff. It has to be, it's not about a woman walking forward or a man doing, it's together. They work as a team, and that is a message that needs to be given out there. You both will be working, so you both need to do things in the house and outside together.
Well, absolutely. On that note, Manu, I will have to wrap up with this fantastic conversation that I've just had with you. Thank you so much for being part of the NewsX VaKu journey with us.
My pleasure, Megha, and good luck with what you're doing.
Thank you.
NewsX ITV network have proudly launched the VaKu Diaspora Broadcasting Network.
VaKu DBN will be India's first mainstream platform dedicated to the diaspora community. Help support us, become VaKu patrons at memboro.com/VaKu. You will get the first access to our interviews, make recommendations, merchandise access, ask questions, and get a shout out of thanks on our TV shows.
You can also suggest to us who should get the VaKu Golden Chakra Awards and also tell us who should get into the VaKu Hall of Fame. Limited memberships are available at 100 rupees per month on Memboro VaKu.
Sign up now, log on to memboro.com/VaKu.